I'd like to call this meeting to order for the regular session of the Blackhawk County Board of Supervisors for August 15, 2023. Roll call, please, Mr. Veeder.
Hall.
Here.
Little.
Here.
Schwartz.
Here.
Trelka.
He was there.
Leyland.
Here. He's still trying to zoom in there, it looks like, but thank you. Would everyone please join us in a moment of silence to reflect on our actions here today? Thank you. Would you please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 1 is the agenda received as proposed or as amended.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. The agenda is received. Item 2 is public comments. Is there anyone here today that would like to comment on anything that is not on today's agenda? Is there anyone on Zoom that would like to comment? Seeing none, we'll move on to claims and payments. This is a resolution that the Board of Supervisors approve expenditures and that the county auditor be authorized and directed to issue checks against the various settlement of such claims as allowed.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded. Ms. Whedon?
Good morning, Board.
Morning.
Our total bill payment today is $321,380.06, and we are paying $766.01 from the Sheriff's 60/40 Fund. And I don't think there was anything really large or unusual in there. Everything appears to be in order today.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, please answer as your name is called.
Hall.
Yes.
Little.
Yes.
Schwartz.
Yes.
Trelka.
Yes.
Leyland.
Yes. Item 4, receive project updates from department heads and elected officials.
Good morning, Board. Kathy Nicholas, County Engineer. We're hopeful that Pointer Road Bridge opens up by Friday of this week. And then next week, we are going to be closing Elk Run Road starting Monday. So as you know, this is a busy corridor in the county. This is where Tyson's is, the northeast site. They're all located along this corridor. Access is to these places from that road. We will be closing it approximately in the vicinity of Newell Street. We anticipate it being closed for a week to a week and a half. We need to replace a culvert that goes underneath the entire roadway. We will have our message boards out there probably by Thursday or Friday. We just wanted you to know this. You may get some calls on this. We are trying to alert both Tyson's, John Deere, trying to get the word out in association with Waterloo, just so people know the road is closed for about a week and a half. Can I answer any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Amanda Fetzemeyer, Human Resources Director. So just really quick, last week with the online benefit enrollment platform being approved, so just to follow up on the insurance, that they came back, their legal had kind of reviewed it. Mike Trennan had already reviewed it, and we are in pretty good shape. They just had a couple minor modifications that Mike appeared to be okay with initially. So once that's finalized, we'll have that contract sent for formal signature, and I'll have it filed with the auditor's office. Next week, last week we awarded the bid to NeoGov for the online applicant tracking and onboarding modules. So next week, I'll be putting that contract on because they've also reviewed the insurance with their legal, have some, comments, modifications, and I provided that to our legal for consideration. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the room? Is there anyone on Zoom that would like to provide an update? Hearing none, we'll move on to minutes approved for August 8th, 2023.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. We have later today 2 hearings, one ordinance number 77281 on a WIT rezone, and ordinance number 77282 on a Carlson rezone. Item 7, consent agenda. The following items are acted upon by a single resolution unless someone wishes to remove something for discussion.
So moved. Second.
Been moved and seconded. Please answer as your name is called.
Little,
Yes.
Schwartz,
Yes.
Trelka,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Leyland.
Yes. Item 8, contracts and agreements. Resolution that the statement of completion and final acceptance of work for project LFM-5025-7X-07 paving on Ridgeway Road and paving on Main Road and Mount Auburn Road be approved and direct the chair to sign for same and authorize and direct the auditor to make final payment in the amount of $837,739.22 with a total project cost of $837,739.22 as recommended by Catherine Nicholas, County Engineer.
So moved.
So moved.
It's been moved and seconded. Kathy, did you have any comments?
Yes, as usual, during a final closeout, I'd like to show you a few pictures of the project and just give you a very brief recap of what the project was about. So the Ridgeway Avenue on Mount Auburn Road, they've been experiencing some significant thermal cracking, and this occurred early in its life, and it's just continued to get worse. Water gets into these transverse cracks in the winter. Throughout the year, the cracks get taller. In this instance, it was one of the roughest riding roads in the county. About 1.5 inches tall. The cracks had become quite tall. We wanted to do some rehabilitation on Ridgeway in particular because it is a busy road. So we budgeted $200,000 for maintenance work on it in our FY24 budget. Then we learned that we had some money in the debt service that we needed to use up. Michelle, our finance director, wanted us to use that. So we put together a project with Ridgeway Avenue and Main Mount Auburn because it was exhibiting similar types of distress. We thought we could treat them in the same way. So we planned about a $900,000 project. We wanted to use a new type of asphalt that the DOT has had good luck with. It's a highly elastic polymerized binder that's used in this mix, and we're hoping that will stem some of this reflective or thermal cracking should it come back. It's kind of known as a self-healing asphalt if there is such a thing. So like I said, the DOT's had good luck and have other counties have as well. So we are hopeful that it works in dealing with some of our crack issues. So we did award the contract. You awarded the contract to Aspro for the $924,000 back in May. This was a completion date contract. We just wanted to use up the money and have the money spent by the end of September. And then our liquidated damages were $1,000 a day. They finished about a month ago, so they were within the completion days, of course, and then there were no liquidated damages assessed. The project underran by about 9%, so I would recommend that you pay the final, we pay the final amount to them and we accept this project. Here's a few photos of the roadway. Here's before condition on Ridgeway Avenue. It's difficult to see, but you can see some of the tenting or the thermal cracking, how it's risen up above the rest of the surface, and that does create quite a bit of roughness to the road. We've had numerous complaints about Ridgeway Avenue in particular. There's quite a bit of agricultural traffic that uses this roadway to access fields and whatnot. This is the final product. It turned out very nice. The asphalt went down very nice. The smoothness was exceptional on this road. This is Mount Auburn Road, and this is in the vicinity of LaPorte City. If you're familiar with that portion of the county, it's just south of LaPorte. You go out of the community on Main Road, and then you return to go south on Mount Auburn Road, and then here's a quick photo of Main Road. So I would ask that you approve the final estimate. Can I answer any questions?
Any questions? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded, then please answer as your name is called.
Schwartz,
Yes.
Trelka,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Little,
Yes.
Leyland.
Yes. Item 9, other business. Resolution that the Board of Supervisors sets November 7th, 2023 as the date for the 1% local option sales and services tax special election in the cities of Cedar Falls, Dunkerton, Elkhorn Heights, Evansdale, Gilbertville, Hudson, LaPorte City, Raymond, and Waterloo, and in the unincorporated area of Blackhawk County to be effective January 1st, 2026.
So moved. Second.
Been moved and seconded. Don't imagine there's any questions for anyone on that. Pretty straightforward, so please answer as your name is called.
Trelka,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Little,
Yes.
Schwartz.
Yes.
Leyland.
Yes. Item B, discussion and possible board action on the local option sales and services tax issues, particularly expiration dates. And we had a lot of good information last week, but I said some of that may want to be repeated today a little bit. But yeah, otherwise the sunset clauses, I know, Grant, is what you're
Yeah,
proposing to address.
just wanted to review a little bit what we talked about before, and stress some points that are difficult to sometimes to grasp, especially in this situation where we don't have these elections commonly and not many people are around since the last time we had one. But the specific issue that we're talking about here is expiration dates, and this is something that I got clarified last week with the Secretary of State's office to make sure we fully understood it. And the upshot is that the Board of Supervisors has the final authority to determine whether there's going to be an expiration date on a local option tax or not, and if there is going to be one, how long it's going to be. And they do have the option of allowing the individual jurisdictions to decide their own expiration dates. That's up to the board whether they want to do that or not. So the law doesn't clearly lay out how all this is supposed to work out, but we know that you have a September 1st deadline. All of the cities in the county have a September 1st deadline to provide their ballot language to the to the county auditor's office, and that ballot language needs to include what the expiration date is. So the board can just decide on its own, or the board can take counsel with the different cities and see what they're interested in. So just wanted to make sure that that was clear to all parties. I sent an email with that information to the city clerks on Friday, and so I have not heard anything back from anybody with questions on this, and I don't know if the board has heard anything or not.
I did have a conversation with Mayor Hart, and he was appreciative that we were considering not having a sunset, and he was supportive of that. I haven't heard from any of the other cities. One question with what you said, that we can allow them to decide for themselves whether it's a sunset or not, but it also has to pass in all the continuous bodies. Do they all have to agree to the sunset, or they all? That's one of the kind of confusing things about it, and the best that I can tell you is that yes, when this is voted on by contiguous cities, and we're talking about 6 cities in Black Hawk counties that all have common borders with one another, the aggregate numbers of the yes and no votes for those cities are going to be taken together to determine if the measure passes for each of those cities. But according to the information that I got from the Secretary of State's office, they could all have different sunset dates. So if they all pass, they're all going to pass or fail together, whether they have different sunset dates or the same sunset date.
Seems like there's like a loophole in there because if some have a sunset and some don't, and then when it comes up to the next vote, like say the Cedar Falls sunsetted and Waterloo didn't.
Then the next
then
vote
what-
would not include the cities that
Okay.
that don't have a sunset.
Okay. And the continuous qualification is out. Okay.
So it doesn't make it more, it seems to make it more confusing that everybody has various
Yeah.
sunset dates.
Well, and like I say, that's up to the board.
I know, but
You
I
can
just
have-
meant it
but
seems
yes,
to be.
yes.
But I thought, and we did think there were a couple of communities, ones that we knew didn't want a sunset date and others that did, or were considering that they did.
Yeah, when Waterloo, this is, convoluted law. Waterloo had the authority to initiate the election because they have over 50% of the population in the county. When they sent us their resolution, it said that, that they wanted to pass this with no sunset. That was included in what they provided to us for their ballot language. So they have signaled their desire with that, but that's still up to the board whether that's what will be on the ballot for Waterloo. I mean, the board doesn't have anything to do with determining how they spend their money, the other cities, but it's the board's decision on the sunset.
So for the ballot language, it might make sense for us to at least indicate our general direction if we want to go no sunset, if we want to do a 10-year or whatever the sunset terms might be. Because if they all have to have language back to us by September 1st, they're going to have to set their agendas and take actions if they want to set that language contrary to a no sun, whatever
Yeah.
our current will is.
And the sooner
I'm-
we know that, the better. I
I'm going
guess.
to maybe ask our legal counsel to weigh in here, but I think that the cities need to tell you what language they want on the ballot for how they're going to spend their money. We will take care of the sunset part based on what the Board of Supervisors tells us. If the board, I think that the board needs to take action itself on how it's going to handle the sunset. Whether there's a sunset, whether there'll be multiple sunsets. But it's what we have to get from the cities by September 1st is how they want to spend their money. If they care to tell us how they want to, whether they want a sunset or not, they can do that, but that does not have to be officially considered by the board.
However, we have to by September 1st indicate whether it's going to be sunsetted
The
or
board
not sunsetted,
does.
or if it's going to be by each jurisdiction. And so if we're looking to be strong partners with these communities, I think it is within our best interest to have that conversation probably today so that they can get it on their, because they're going to have to get it on their council agendas if they want to take a sort of countermeasure, if that makes.
Because we have just 2 weeks to do this.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it's
and we,
a
and we still have to, am I correct, Grant? We still have to outline how it is that we're planning to utilize the dollars that we collect in our portion.
Yes, the board is the same as the city in that respect. You have a September 1st deadline to determine your use of the tax.
Yeah.
We use. And we did invite the mayors of Blackhawk County, I guess, to this meeting today, just if they had input or questions or comments, or to be part of the discussion, or just to listen in. Some are available. I think some are going to try to catch the meeting when it was taped, or the taping of it, since they couldn't attend, but.
Well, I would propose that we move forward with no sunset, but if there's, with there Mary's here that wish to speak, I'd like to hear.
Can I add something? Sorry.
Please.
So I don't know how many of the mayors.
Karen, if you can grab the mic.
Karen Showalter, Elections Manager. So I have been working with all the city clerks, and I just got off the phone with a couple more, and they tend to want to just follow suit with Waterloo. So I think they're just looking for that guidance, and so I just wanted to share with you that half of them are already leaning towards that way.
Is there any downside to the no sunset? Because we talked about that last week, that it was a possibility for us, obviously, to consider, but
And the only downside would be is if they wanted to change how they're using these funds. But there is, within code, there's action that they can take if they want to do that by bringing it back on the ballot.
and we can do that at any time, correct?
And
We thought maybe within a year. Maybe we weren't certain if it had to be a year, that they've changed some of the laws and legislation in the last year. If that meant we had to wait a year before we could have another election.
No.
We can do it any time.
Yes.
Good, thank you.
And if any of the jurisdictions wish to change their distribution of that tax, only that jurisdiction votes. It is not a county-wide vote.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
So, I know there are some online. Is there anyone, any one of our mayors or clerks that would like to comment, or? Okay, thank you. Well, I know, Michelle, you had handed a handout last week too. I don't think any of us got to see it beforehand. Was there anything you wanted to point out, I guess, about that information? I know you forwarded it today, or yesterday again, but.
Only if you want to discuss how the board wants to use our portion of it, because that's really all I talked about.
And I know
Want to have that.
Kathy has a presentation. I was going to say you wanted to, I guess, run by, I was going to say, because you were proposing something different too as far as our allocation. And I said, well, we had the discussion on for today, so certainly could go over that as well as yours too. So I think the more information we have and the more opportunity for this, the better, quite honestly, because it is not very often we do this, so.
Thank you, Linda. I did share some information last week. This is quite a bit of it is similar, but I can certainly just really briefly go through it again. So, as I told you, as Michelle will tell you, 50% of the local option sales tax goes to roads and bridges. That's how it was voted on 10 years ago. I'm asking you to please continue to propose to keep it at 50%. I just wanted to explain a few things in this slide. There's a lot going on in this slide. So historically, that in the last 10 years, of course, that amount going into towards the local option sales tax has grown. Information from our finance director has shown a steady increase of about 33% since 2013, in the last 10 years. As I said, half of it goes to the Rural Basic Fund. Up until last year, that money did go into a debt service fund where bonds were issued to pay for road projects. Those bonds were repaid with this debt service fund. So we, in the engineer's office, we put together projects that were shovel-ready. We had to spend the money in 2 years, and we put together approximately $35 or $37 million worth of projects. And I have another slide on that coming up here. This slide also shows that, so of course as money is collected, we of course have to put together a budget every year. So we put together a budget based on an estimate of local option sales tax received. So this slide shows that every year there's a slight gap between what's budgeted and what's actually received. Sometimes you don't know, of course, until the end of the year, until how much money is received. So over time, that gap can turn into some sizable money that goes into, I'm hopeful that it goes to the road department or the engineer's office so we can spend it on road projects. So over time, over 4 or 5 years, this could amount to, over $1 million worth of unbudgeted money that's just accumulated in our fund. And I'm hopeful that every 4 or 5 years we can make up for that by having another spending some of that money. This is just a recap of what
Just before, to interrupt you, I'm sorry, but I was going to say, so do we need to look into that to make sure that we are doing that, or we have done it, or that we're planning to do that, or?
We're required by law to
spend it on.
segregate
So that we
it,
do.
so
No
yeah.
question that we do get.
I don't believe so. But, I haven't been here very long yet, but certainly in my tenure, we're gonna follow the law and it's gonna go to roads, because that's what our referendum language said we would do with it.
Could we verify that, just for the record? Not now, later?
Yeah,
just to make sure that we have been doing it.
And the reason I bring this to your attention is this is what happens to us with the state, the gas tax. We are given a DOT estimate at the beginning of the year before we do our budget. And then, of course, as time goes on, they've asked us to budget conservatively, and rightly so. So by the end of the year, there are $300,000 or $400,000 or $500,000 that we do actually receive, but has not been budgeted. Over a number of years, that amounts to a couple $1 million over 5 or 6 years. And that's one reason our fund balance is so large. But we just keep budgeting according to what the DOT tells us our estimate would be. So at some point, we'd like to do kind of a catch-up to spend some of that money that has accumulated as unbudgeted money. Just to recap, over when I came 15 years ago, that's really when we started doing road projects and then bonding for them in 2008. Since that time, we've had probably 15 different roadway projects, and we've spent close to $35 or $37 million. The last project was, of course, our big Grundy Road project that we split with Grundy County. That was a $4 million bond project. We've done 85 miles of resurfacing just with bond money since in the last 15 years, and we've replaced 2 bridges, I believe. I also wanted to let you know that, of course, just like everybody else, everything else, its costs have increased. Our construction costs for roadway work have increased about 28 to 30% in the last 10 years. Our bridge construction costs have increased about that same amount in the last 10 years. The cost of our equipment has gone up as well in the last 10 years. Dump trucks have gone up 14%. That will probably be substantially more this year if we can even get the dump trucks. So, of course, the supply chain issues, those have all equated to higher costs for us as well as everyone else, as you're hearing. Motor graders, in particular, have gone up substantially in the last 10 years. I told you last week our cost of rock, the cost of aggregate, are now spending $200,000 more on maintaining the gravel road system, re-rocking the gravel road system, compared to where we were 10 years ago. We spend about $1 million a year on aggregate. And then, I showed you this last week, but our road conditions are good right now because we have resurfaced about a third of our system in the last 15 years. So our road conditions are very good by Pavement Condition Index, and this is a look at all of the indices where we judge pavements such as cracking and faulting and ride. So this just shows you a composite of the age of all of our 230 miles of paved roads. You can see that our best roads are our youngest roads. As our roads age, of course, they do have worse condition. Same thing in this slide. We have primarily good roads at this point and have had for the last 15 years. Just a quick look at our bridges. We have about 230 bridges. 139 of those are in good condition. 70 of those are in fair condition, with just about 20 in poor condition. So this slide shows the same thing. Of course, our younger bridges are in better condition, and as we go through a life cycle of approximately 70 years, we start to see our bridges worsen, the condition of those bridges worsen. Currently, we only have about 12 bridges posted. We do have 7 of them that are posted for reasons other than load, and we do have 2 that are closed. The Bennington Road Bridge is closed, as you know, and then the Wheeler Road Bridge is closed right now as well. So in conclusion, I'd ask that you please continue to support the roads and bridges in this county at 50% of the local option sales tax. Consider raising it to 60%. That would give us another $180,000 a year. Approximately, we could pave another mile or 2 of roadway. We could buy half of a motor grader, place more rock on the road. So we would not waste this money. We would certainly spend it according to the needs of our roads and bridges and our citizens. Can I answer any questions at this time?
Kathy, does local option sales tax, are you able to use that for equipment? with the language?
I believe in the past, due to the fact that it was used to pay back debt service, of course, we only used it for construction of roads and bridges. Now that we're moving it into our local road fund, and Michelle, you can certainly answer this as well, it would be commingled with other funds. Go ahead.
Okay, I want to, it actually won't be commingled with
Okay.
anything. It'll be only for roads, and I would suggest if you want to expand the use to equipment, that you might change your referendum language to allow that, because I think today it says for construction of roads and bridges. I would have no problem if the equipment is used for construction, but if equipment is shared between maintenance, for example, and construction, in my past, we tried to be conservative with those things and maybe not, we don't want to use it in a way that the voters didn't authorize, I guess. So felt it was better to use it, be kind of strict about using it for construction if it says it's for construction. I would, Tom, add that the road use taxes, which also are required to be used for roads and not other things, those receipts have also grown about 50% over the last 10 years, and they have been able to fund their equipment so far fairly adequately out of those funds. There is some fund balance built up there, but it is not extreme based on how much they spend a year. I think it's around 38%, if I remember correctly right now, which I don't think is, I would not consider that extremely too high for a road use tax fund. We did, we were using the county was using 50% of the local option tax to pay back bonds that were used only for road construction. So that was how you were meeting your referendum definition earlier. We are paying off bonds. So if you'll remember, back when we set the FY24 budget, we didn't have a large project that we needed to issue bonds for road construction. So we are going to we have stopped actually depositing local option and using it to repay bonds. We are putting it to be used directly for construction, which will add funds more than the 180 a year that can go directly to construction and won't have to pay back interest. So we've been fortunate. We've been able to do some really good things to increase the amounts we're spending on our roads and bridges right now.
So you're saying basically, since we paid our bonds off, which that's the original reason why we did the 50-50, we have more money now for construction, where before it was going towards bonds.
Correct. That's correct.
Yeah. Kathy, how many miles a year roughly do we reconstruct or resurface or build?
Resurfacing, we're typically doing 6 to 8 miles a year now.
Because I think one of the arguments we used with the citizens at the time was we had enough funding for 3 miles, and that we needed to increase that to get ahead or even or ahead of the. So that number definitely has improved.
Yeah, because I think we felt like we were just keeping up, and we wanted to try to make some progress on that.
Yes, and I've told you, just looking at a life cycle, if our asphalt pavements last approximately 22 years, if we can get 22 years of life out of our asphalt pavements, we have 220 to 230 miles of road. We should be resurfacing 10 to 12 miles a year just to stay even.
I know there's at least a couple of us that I know after you proposed this last week said we'd like to have that consideration. I don't know if that's for this year, but it's still something to consider, and I don't know if others had comments or questions. And as I understand it with the loss, then we can still go ahead. We could keep everything the same as we have now, and then at some point in the future, though, make a decision if we wanted to do that. Is that correct? Sounds like.
Yeah, and I will also point out, The other 50% has always been deposited directly to the rural fund. And if you look at how we spend the rural fund dollars, 48% of that goes to roads. Granted, some of that's property tax, but we are spending a substantial amount of what we receive on roads.
Yeah, to change that percentage, we'd have to look at what we need to change.
Right, because it would
The
need to,
designations.
it would have an impact on the rural fund. And the primary things funded out of the rural fund, the largest thing, other than secondary roads, the second largest thing would be our rural sheriff's deputies. So you've got sheriff's deputies, the county share of the consolidated communications invoice, and then we have some very small things. We pay for county planning and zoning out of there, for example, but we also collect revenue that pretty much wipes that to zero. And then just our library contributions and a few other small things come out of there. But that is all 100% allocated every year, so if you wanted to shift 10% of that to roads, we would have to figure out how we're gonna cover that. Or, you know, if there was enough growth, maybe you cover it, but we would need to address that.
This is a question for Grant. So if there was a change in the usage, how would that come? Let's say in 2 years we want to change the percentages. Do we have to repeal and then come back? Or does the new, let's say we take it from 50-50 to 60-40. If 60-40 fails, does it just revert back to the 50-50, or are we?
Yeah. You would have a referendum on whether you would change the use.
Just to change,
If
okay.
it failed, you would just go on as you were before.
Okay.
This, the board actually did this in, I believe, 2008, when it did change it to the 50-50. I'm going to start misremembering, but that was actually done, sort of an interim election.
Okay.
Kathy's been fighting hard for lost funds for last few years. I think making sure that we can use those and they don't get swiped away by some of the other state efforts. So thank you for that, and to making certain that I know your main thrust of this was at least to keep it at 50-50 and not reduce the roads and.
I think
Richard's
Michelle's
fine.
point, though, too, that the other portion of that 50 is going, at least on some level, to roads. While it may not be into the strict lost fund, there is additional dollars going into that, into the road use, or going into roads.
Roads,
It's not going into road use, but they're going towards roads.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak to anything, or anyone online that would like to speak as well?
I'd say I'm definitely ready to move forward with the sunset, and I would be comfortable staying 50-50 right now, or doing 55-45, but
So do we want to take action today, or we want to have this discussion and then put something on for next week, or
I'm comfortable on the sunset language. I don't know that I'm.
ready for?
I need to
percent?
think through a little bit more on the allocation.
Dan, Tom, how about you? Would you rather wait on both, vote on one, or any thoughts? or
I don't
comments?
have any problem waiting. My biggest concern on all of this was, obviously, I was around when we proposed this to the citizens in the rural area from 100 to a 50, and it was a hard sell. There was a pretty good chance it could have been defeated. And I think to change that formula now, you heard how much money is currently coming in for roads. We stand a good risk of that being defeated again in an election. And then look what you got. So I don't have a problem with the sunset clause, seeing that we can change it any time. As far as allocation, I would support the 50-50, leaving it the same, because to be honest with you, that's how the Board of Supervisors sold it. back in 2008, and it wasn't an easy job to do that.
I do think it'll be our responsibility to sell it, regardless, in the upcoming election. Just because we maintain the status quo doesn't mean, frankly, electorates change. And so we're going to have to be responsive to all voters.
I support removing the sunset and staying with 50-50.
So, I don't know, if everybody's got a comfort level of just waiting till next week and voting on both.
Yeah,
I mean, we could do it today, but, and then since you needed some time, you say to think about others, but yeah, if that sounds all right. Well, if that works for everyone, we'll put it on the agenda for next week then and go from there. Okay, thank you. And see if we hear from our surrounding communities in the meantime. Great, thank you. Item C, resolution that the project agreement between Blackhawk County, Iowa and the Iowa Department of Transportation for the bridge approach repair on County Road V51 South Canfield Road over Interstate 380 at an estimated cost of $132,342.05 to Iowa Department of Transportation, which payment will be received in 2025.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Kathy?
Yeah, this is just a standard agreement between us and the Department of Transportation. We have budgeted for next year to replace Canfield Road over Highway 20. In our work, we noticed that the ramps leading to Highway 20 are in very poor condition, at least near the vicinity of Canfield Road. We've asked the DOT if they would like us to reconstruct a portion of those ramps. As we do this work, they have agreed, and therefore they are agreeing to pay this amount of the work. And these are just based on estimates right now. They'll pay us the actual amount once we have the contract and have the work done. I would recommend that you approve it.
Thank you. Any questions or comments further? Please answer as your name is called.
Hall,
Yes.
Little,
Yes.
Schwartz.
Yes.
Jelka,
Yes.
Leyland.
Yes. Item D, resolution that the suspension requested by the following: Beverly A. Beaumont, amount of $674 on 1610 Logan Avenue, Waterloo. Judy Langham for amount $1,008 for 1648 Birch Avenue, Waterloo. Jason McGee for amount of $3,326 for 2217 West 8th Street, Waterloo. And Jane Strangeland, amount of $682 for 430 Railroad Street, Waterloo, on taxes owed for 2324 installments be approved pursuant to 427.8 of the Code of Iowa, and the county treasurer be authorized and directed to adjust her records accordingly.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Please answer as your name is called.
Little,
Yes.
Schwartz.
Yes.
Jelka,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Leyland.
Yes. Item E, motion to direct the county auditor to advertise for a public hearing bid opening to be held at 9:05 on Tuesday, August 29th, 2023, in the boardroom of the Blackhawk County Courthouse on the proposed purchase of one tractor with a boom mower for the Blackhawk County Engineers Department.
So moved.
So move.
Moved and seconded. Kathy, you want to comment?
Last time you'll hear from me.
Okay.
During this meeting. We have budgeted $175,000 for this tractor. If you approve this, setting the public hearing, that will allow us to send out the bids, or excuse me, the request for proposal for this tractor with the boom arm. Can I answer any questions?
No.
Thank you.
Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item F, discussion and possible board action on a funding request for the county's support of a community attraction and tourism grant application to support the Community Natatorium project. County funding is contingent on Cedar Falls being awarded the CAT grant. The city of Cedar Falls is applying for $950,000 in September of this year for Phase 2, which totals $5,700,000. The total project cost is $21 million. The Iowa Economic Development Authority requires matching funds from the county for grant projects, CAT projects. Okay, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having us back today. We really appreciate it. I'm Tracy Malero, And my colleague Lorelei Redfern, who came with me last time, would have loved to be here today, but she had a family medical issue, so she's unable to. So I found this other volunteer here, Mike Malera, who's helping us out. So, anyway, we appreciate your consideration of this project, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you have about any aspect of this project or its benefits. But for purposes of time and attention today, we decided not to rehash the entire project we did before, but rather focus on some key points.
That'd be great.
Which,
I'm going to say sometimes it doesn't hurt to rehash.
yes,
Do
yes.
so.
Well, if we need to
Thank you.
rehash, that's
No.
okay.
But no,
there we are.
please, yeah.
Now, before we get into our main points for today, we thought it would be useful to put some context around the public pools, water safety, and the overall landscape of aquatics today. So what you see here is a listing of articles and stories that have been published just this summer in major news media like the New York Times. The theme that runs through these articles is that there has been an underbuilding of public pools across the United States. There's an ongoing lifeguard crisis, and both of these things are affecting access to water recreation, decreasing safety, and the impact on historically disadvantaged communities and youth and children are exacerbated. These theme lines have been largely avoided here in the Cedar Valley, but they're on the horizon for us, so we need to make some necessary investments to avoid this. The first thing to understand about our situation in this region is that we're facing an indoor pool crisis. Today we have 4 indoor public pools in an 8-county region which provide broad-based usage. All 4 of these pools are beyond their useful life, as evidenced by continued maintenance issues that take them out of commission for days and weeks at a time. In the next 5 years or less, the situation could get dire due to the state and conditions of our pools. Implications of the indoor pool crisis are that swim lessons for children across Black Hawk County, which are already in short supply here, are going to be in critical condition. Water recreation is one of the most popular family activities, and making sure that all our area youth have access to swim lessons and safety awareness is important. Further, it's worth noting that all our indoor and outdoor pools and water parks require a healthy supply of lifeguards. The number of lifeguards is directly proportional to the number of teenagers that participate in organized swim programs. Organized swim programs help prepare and train swimmers, primarily in indoor pool facilities. If we don't address the indoor pool crisis now, another consequence would be a lack of lifeguards to staff our outdoor pools and water parks in the hot summer, and also the impact would be diminished levels of water safety. A new pool is an investment in the economic development and quality of life of our community. We need to provide quality of life amenities to help attract and retain families and people to our region. Our community has fallen behind, and one tangible example of that is with regard to indoor pools, where what we have today in the Cedar Valley is not even close to being commensurate with what we have in Cedar Rapids, Des Moines, Iowa City, Ames, and even communities like Mason City. It's clear based on the last census, the Cedar Valley is not growing. From 2010 to 21, population in Black Hawk County declined by 0.6%. Our community significantly underperformed in terms of population growth when you compare us with the greater Des Moines area, Cedar Rapids, Ames, and Iowa City, and other communities we normally compare ourselves with. These numbers should be cause for concern because we're just not as competitive in attracting and retaining people here as we'd like to be. Better quality of life amenities are a big reason for the differential between us and these communities here that are growing. And building a regional pool facility is an example of a quality of life amenity that we think will help draw people and keep people to this area.
Good morning. A couple things I wanted to note. I think it's important to be mindful when you look at a project like this and a request like this, that pools, specifically indoor pools, are a regional asset. And the sense of regionality, that theme line runs through everything about this project. So, for example, the design of this project is designed with the intent of broad-based usage, with things like separate access 24/7 into the pool. The pool will be located at a school building, Cedar Falls High School, but the design is such that there'll be access in and out of the pool for use across the community when school's in session or when school's not in session. There's a separate parking lot to access the pool, and there's two tanks in the facility, so they can be used for multiple uses. Again, that's part of the thought process of broad-based usage, regionality. That's part of that theme line. Another thing about regionality that's worth mentioning is the use. People across, as Tracy mentioned, across an 8-county region are going to use this, predominantly Blackhawk County, but all of our contiguous counties have kids that use our Waterloo Cedar Falls pools, including this one. Specifically, as an example, we have 2 competitive swim clubs in our community. One is headquartered in Cedar Falls, one is headquartered in Waterloo. Incidentally, they both have kids both from Waterloo and Cedar Falls, as well as surrounding areas. But the Waterloo-based team, which is called the Destroyers, as an example, their headquarters at Central Pool, they used the Pete and Holmes pools in Cedar Falls 6 days a week all summer. They don't do that year round, but it's very regular. The Cedar Falls teams occasionally use Central as well. Also, swim lessons are very much a regional thing. Families tend to put their kids in swim lessons where they can get access to lessons. There's a shortage on availability of lessons, and this pool will help ensure that we have adequate accessibility to lessons for every kid in our county. It's worth noting that the rates that Cedar Falls has charged historically on their indoor pools do not differentiate between where you live. So the rates are the same for everybody, which is really built on this idea of regionality as well as access for every kid. If the kids that want to get taught to swim and want access are going to get that chance, and the families. And then lastly, on regionality, funding collaboration, this is very much a collaborative project, and I think that flows through not perfectly on regionality, but pretty impressively. Short update from the last time that Tracy and Lorelei addressed you. There's been a total of private funding of $3 million raised, a little over $3 million. $500K of that has come since the last presentation to you. Since the last time, the city of Cedar Falls has upped their commitment by $2.9 million to get to $8 million total. And then a 28E agreement, which is this collaborative agreement between the schools in Cedar Falls and the city to govern usage. It's really managed by the city aquatics director, but that 28E agreement has been finalized, so to put that governance in clarity. And then the last thing is, this is a picture of the funding. It's a $21 million project with $8 million coming from the CF schools, $8 million from the city, $3+ million from the community. I might add that community contribution represents a broad swath of our community. Over $1 million of that came out of Waterloo contributors, recognizing regionality. We're asking today, humbly, for $150,000 from the county, but very interested in accepting support and any level of support that fits into your budget. We certainly need that to get the CAT money, which we think we're a very competitive project for, and we also have a gaming ask, and there are some timing issues there that is kind of why that's at the end. But that would take us and complete our funding needs, and would ask for support for that financially as well as a resolution today, if that is within your interest to do. Take any questions you have.
So you need to get the full 950,000 to match for the grant. Is that correct, or?
No.
No, we
Oh,
just
it's
need
not- okay.
some kind of participation
Gotcha.
from the county. The math worked at 150, but
Okay.
again, we will accept anything because we can't even access those funds with the state without the support from the county.
Yeah, that was great. And I think, and we've had some conversation on that before too, from previous grants that we've done with CAT grants that we've participated in. Not that we can't change that, but we had recently done with the city of Waterloo for the Burns and Gates pools. And similar investment, not quite maybe that dollar for dollar, but almost the similar. And for that, we did participate at a $50,000 level. And I know we've also said too, though, for, you've had this request into us for a larger amount. We haven't gotten to that stage of the projects that we've looked at, going forward on that, kind of waiting to get some county projects looked at and seeing where we're at with that before we went out and put together, I guess, some work sessions and things for us to work through that. But definitely because of the CAT, yeah, and the need for CAT and the need, your timeline for that, we wanted to get you here to make this request so you'd have this for September. So
Yeah.
still understanding there's that almost, I'm looking at almost as two requests if we wanted to, the one for CAT that makes that possible, but also then to still not disregard their request for later. But comments from the board or?
Well, I think it's a, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think it's a great project, and I think it's maybe been 3 or 4 years since we did the 50,000 for Ernst Park, and everything's.
I was gonna say maybe two because I was
Okay.
gonna, or maybe it was 2 years ago.
Okay.
Was it? Some of it was
I think it
familiar
was
last
just a year ago,
Oh, okay.
actually.
All
I was
right.
gonna say we've been hearing the.
It
reports
feels
of
like
it,
we were
the
working
success.
on Burns and Gates for a long
That's
time,
true.
but
Right.
the award just
That's
came
true.
last June,
Okay.
May or June.
I mean,
Michelle, have we, oh, go ahead, Chris.
I was just kidding. I'm comfortable with the 150,000.
Michelle, have we paid Waterloo yet? Because they just received word on that, I believe, the beginning of this year that they had the CAT grant.
We did get word from them that they have it. I have not remitted it. I know they are under construction now, but I was kind of waiting for some billing from Waterloo Leisure Services, and I could reach out to Paul Hudding, because we could certainly release that funding now, I think.
I mean, that project, I don't remember the cost that they came to the board with. It was around 12, wasn't it?
I've seen several estimates. I have a number of 16 million in my
That's-
memory,
yeah,
but that
that's
may
what I
or
was
may
gonna
not
say,
be
16
quite
or 17 is what
right.
I thought, but I don't, I could be honest.
I was trying to.
Because they did some changes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
know
so
they
I
did some
might have an
changes, too.
earlier draft.
Michelle, could we use ARPA money?
We'd have to have that evaluated by Baker Tilly. It could probably fall in the replacement revenue bucket. We're kind of getting, a lot of our ARPA money is being spoken for now, so we'd have to look at that.
Yeah,
But under the replacement revenue,
we can utilize, yeah, a lot of.
But
projects.
even that, our whole
CAT as
pool
well.
is getting,
'Cause that's more for
fairly well-
administration, but it's just that we have been using some of it.
I know. I personally would rather just use fund balance and not pay the consulting fee to analyze whether we would have to pay Baker and Tilly if we used ARPA.
Yeah.
yeah, I'm also supportive of the 150. I mean, I recognize the regional impact, not just Waterloo Cedar Falls, but also from a regional tourism impact. As we just got done having a conversation about sales tax, recognizing that folks come in for tournaments, they go out to eat, they do their shopping in larger metros. And we've got to start to do some of the work behind increasing that population. And this is the sort of thing that these quality of life measures that are foundational to increasing our plight.
Dan or Tom, you want to comment on thoughts, feelings on moving forward?
I think it's an excellent program that they put together, and I think it'll be a benefit. We have given to various LaPorte, Cedar Falls Aqua Center, smaller amounts, obviously, and just recently Waterloo. I think it's a good project, but I couldn't support the 150. I could go with, say, the 50,000 and see if they get the CAT grant.
I support the 150.
When will they find out on the CAT grant?
We would find out in about January.
January?
You're going to try to submit it in September, was that correct?
We're going
still
to,
hoping to, or November, maybe.
November 15th,
November.
correct.
It was trying to get the information, I think, to be
Yes,
submitted.
we're getting
in
the
September.
application all tightened up by September 18th with all the documentation, and then it will be ready for November 15th. I will add that, I don't know if you're familiar, the Falls Aquatic Center does host large swim meets in the area. In fact, they do the Summer Sizzler every year, and that brings 500 athletes, and it brings teams from Minnesota, Kentucky, and Wisconsin, and all across Iowa that participate in that. And if we have a pool like this, because there's going to be a 10-lane competition aspect, we can have competitions indoors as well. And we're confident we're going to bring some of these big meets to our area that will also help with economic development.
And I think it's
I'd
a
like the idea that you guys address that there won't be a fee for non-residents of Cedar Falls. I think that's a great idea. We did contribute to the Cedar Falls Aqua Center, and we sent a letter to them after the fact because they did have a fee for people who didn't live in Cedar Falls, higher than what it would be for a resident. So I'm glad to hear that you're going to have it open, same schedule and everything.
And you said regional, so not just Cedar Falls, the Waterloo, but the others as well, correct?
Yes, any child
Yeah.
attend swim lessons and have the same low rate.
Is there specific language that needs to be included for the CAT grant? In term, you had mentioned Mike, you had mentioned the resolution. I didn't know if there was.
There is, probably isn't in your folder, is that correct? I was going to say, well, I mean, I know we can use this as well.
Yeah, I sent a draft
Yeah.
over that you should have.
Most of it, I think, covers what's in this stated here as far as us being contingent and the amounts and the dollar amounts and it being for the pool, so we can certainly do that. Yeah, the regional impact, I think, is great, and I said, and what it can do for us for the meets and meeting the needs in a community that we don't have and can compete with others as well, so that's really great. So sounds like we want to do the resolution for that.
Yeah.
Do you have any concerns, Grant, with the resolution?
Well, you bring up whether there needs to be specific language for a CAT grant. I would like to see a written resolution, and if you could put it on next week, would that be a problem?
Oh, probably not. I was going to say it wouldn't be for you since we're putting it together, but yeah, we could certainly do that. I was going to say it sounds like
Unless somebody
Yes,
has
there
a
have been some
resolution they want to
changes.
present today, but, you know, it makes it difficult coming up with it on the fly.
And Isaiah and you, I think, both provided some language for it.
Yes.
So that would be
We
fine.
sent a
If you don't
draft.
mind, we can do it next week.
Okay.
If it's not a problem, we can certainly do it. I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
to make sure it's worded correctly for the CAT grant as well as the city of Cedar Falls and you as well. Okay. Great. Does that sound all right?
Yeah.
Hey, all right, okay. With everyone? Well, thank you.
All right,
Thank you
thank
very
you.
much. Yeah, that's great. We'll do the resolution and then confirm, it sounds like, to the amount everybody's pretty comfortable with, but
yeah.
super.
Could we also, Linda, in the resolution, I think it's important for the public to know where the money's coming from. Could we include that the money would be coming out of reserves?
Sure, we can put wherever we'd like, yeah, that'd be great, if that's what we wish. We can respond, I guess, accordingly to Michelle, if that's something we don't want to do. If someone has a difference of opinion, we can get back on that.
Michelle, is the 50,000 to Waterloo, will that be coming out of reserves?
That was the motion, so yes, unless our departments perform better than budgeted, which they often do, so the short answer would be yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. No one has a problem with that at this point? Okay, super. Great, well, thank you. Thank you both for coming and yeah, great projects. Well, the time is 10:05, so we'll move into the hearing on proposed ordinance number 77-281, the WIT rezone. Motion to receive and place on file proof of publication.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion's approved. Motion to waive the first reading as notice was published on August 8th, 2023 in the Waterloo Courier in accordance and requirements with the Code of Iowa, and the publication was approved on the request submitted by Jeffrey and Carla Witt at 6721 Waters Road to rezone 1.86 acres from A Agricultural District to AR Agricultural Residential District to construct one new single-family home.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 3, motion to close the hearing as oral and written comments were received and placed on file.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Were there any written comments?
No, ma'am.
All right, Seth.
Okay, all right, yeah, 6721 Waters Road, what rezone? This is a request to rezone 1.86 acres from A Agricultural District to AR Agricultural Residential District in order to construct a new single-family home. It was moved by AG and seconded by Shares to rezone 1.86 acres from A Agricultural District to AR in order to construct a new single-family home. The request was unanimously approved. The surrounding area consists of rural homes and farmland and is zoned A Agricultural District to the south. Line of the north is zoned A Agricultural District and RS Residential Suburban District. Land of the east is zoned A Agricultural District and the city of Hudson. Land of the west is zoned A Agricultural District and AR Agricultural Residential District. Small sliver of the rezone area is located within the FEMA 2011 floodplain map and FEMA preliminary map. However, there's more than adequate amount of land to build a home. Side of land valuation score of 38 and Lisa score of 168, indicating low agricultural value. The applicant wishes to rezone the 1.85 acres from ADR or to construct a single-family home. The parcel is large enough to accommodate one developable lot that will meet the lot and size requirements for the AR by being greater than 1.5 acres in size and wider than 150 feet. Rezone area is mostly trees and pasture and is not in agricultural production. The Planning and Zoning Commission recommended unanimous approval of the request at their regular meeting on July 18th, 2023.
Thank you. Any comments that you'd wish to make? Anything, like you say, in opinion? No? Seth said it all? Okay, great. Thank you, Seth.
Thank you.
All right. Is there a motion then to close the hearing? Did we do a motion in a
Yep.
second? Thank you. So, motion is approved. All in favor, say aye.
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 We'll close the hearing. Next item is a resolution to suspend the rules requiring the Board of Supervisors to consider and vote on the proposed ordinance of 2 prior meetings.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please answer as your name is called.
Little?
Yes.
Excuse me. Schwartz?
Yes.
Felka?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Leyland?
Yes. Item 5 is an ordinance adoption. The ordinance amending ordinance number 36 as amended, the Blackhawk County, Iowa Agricultural Preservation Zoning Ordinance adopted February 2nd, 1999, by adding subsection number 281 to section 6B, rezoning certain property as described on the above request submitted by Jeffrey and Carla Witt, and to consider the same for adoption, and if adopted, would be known as ordinance number 77-281.
So moved.
Second.
And moved and seconded. Please answer as your name is called.
Schwartz?
Yes.
Felka?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Little?
Yes.
Leyland?
Yes. Thank you. Item H, the time is 10:10. Hearing on proposed ordinance number 77-282 Carlson rezone. Motion to receive and place on file proof of publication.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Motion to waive the first reading as notice was published on August 8th, 2023 in the Waterloo Courier.
So
So
moved.
moved. Second?
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 3, motion to close the hearing as oral and written comments were received and placed on file.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Mr. Veeder, were there any written comments?
No, ma'am.
Thank you. Seth?
Okay, all right. We have a request west of 10812 Cedar Wapsie Road, Carlson rezoned. Request to rezone 2.88 acres from A Agricultural District to AR Agricultural Residential District in order to construct a new single-family home. It was moved by AG and seconded by Sherritt to rezone 1.86 from A Agricultural District to AR Agricultural Residential District in order to construct a new single-family home. Request was unanimously approved. The surrounding area consisted of agricultural lands with some rural homes and a zoned agricultural district to the northeast and west. Land of the south is zoned agricultural district and AR agricultural residential district. None of the rezoned areas located in a special flood hazard area per the 2011 floodplain map and the preliminary floodplain map. Site had a land evaluation score of 59 and Lisa score of 215, just simply indicating moderate agricultural value. The applicant wishes to rezone the 2.88 acres from 8AR in order to construct a new single-family home. The parcel is large enough to accommodate one developable lot that will meet the lot and size requirements for the AR Agricultural Residential District by being greater than 1.5 acres in size and wider than 150 feet. Rezone area is mostly trees and pasture. It is not an agricultural production. The Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously approved the rezone request at the regular meeting on July 18th, 2023.
Thank you, Seth.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience would like to comment? Okay. We had a motion to close the hearing then, as oral and written comments received. All in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Resolution to suspend the rules requiring the Board of Supervisors to consider and vote on the proposed ordinance at 2 prior meetings.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in
Second.
Thank you. Please answer as your name is called.
Trelka?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Little?
Yes.
Schwartz?
Yes.
Leyland?
Yes. Item 5, ordinance adoption. An ordinance amending ordinance number 36 as amended, the Blackhawk County, Iowa Agricultural Preservation Zoning Ordinance adopted February 2nd, 1999 by adding subsection number 282 to section 6B, rezoning certain property as described on the above request submitted by Jeffrey and Carla Witt, and to consider the same for adoption, and if adopted would be known as ordinance number 77-282.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Please answer as your name is called.
Linda, do you want to change those names to the Carlsons? We got a typo in that ordinance.
Oh, there was a, oh, oops.
I think we're doing Carl.
Oh, the Jeffrey and Carla.
Yeah. I
Oh,
apologize.
okay, sorry. Apologize.
Oh, that's all right. I think it's our mistake on the agenda.
Oh, okay.
But you can take credit
Yeah, we'll-
for
yeah,
that.
we'll take it as a
if
positive.
you
Oh, okay,
want
that's
to.
all I
Thank
got.
you very much, yeah.
All right.
Okay, super, thank you. So we start the please answer as your name is called. Okay.
Hall?
Yes.
Little?
Yes.
Schwartz?
Yes.
Trelka?
Yes.
Leyland?
Yes. Great, thank you. Item 10, work session, discussion, possible board action on the American Rescue Plan Act county projects. Anyone have anything to discuss today? All right. Oh, Rory, thank you.
Good morning, Board. Rory Giving, Facility Director. Just wanted to let you know that we had our first meeting yesterday with regards to the remodel projects here at the courthouse, the elections, the auditors, and the treasurers, and the county attorney. It was our discovery meeting. I believe it went really well. We've got, our goal is to have a concept review, concept refinement, and concept final between now and Thanksgiving. So our hope is to be able to bring that final concept to the Board of Supervisors right around Thanksgiving time. With that in mind, contracts or bid lettings, we're having a goal for before Christmas. So that's, just wanted to share that timeline with you. If you have any questions?
No, that's great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any reports or information from the board? Hearing none. Motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Meeting's adjourned. Thank you.